they were able to pinpoint the gambling as this is a new element to really disrupt and poison the society while we profit and while we keep them stuck in that same everyday loop for years on end, never progressing, never getting themselves, never breaking free of the chains that society is always trying to tie you to.
So I want to say, like, who's actually being detrimented the worst from this specifically? Not just gambling specifically, just the vices that this world is trying to put on us specifically, right? You have the young adults, right?
Early in their life with, not that much risk in terms of if they were to, go broke, they don't have anybody.
Not even just that. They're transitioning from child to an adult, right? As a child, you were coddled. You are still naive, right? You're very easily manipulated if somebody wants to do so, right? So now you take the accountability aspect of it, right? And you transition that over to being an adult. They're still a child at the end of the day, right? They still have the mentality of a child. So they're going to take way more risk because they don't have any responsibilities, right? They're more susceptible to drugs and outside influences because they're not used to having responsibilities, having that stress, having the mentality to sacrifice specifically, right? And then you have the working class, right? So the people that are past their young adult stage and they have somewhat of responsibilities, maybe a little bit of more responsibilities, right? They're looking at it like this: the rat race of continuously working, nothing is changing. And some people, when their back is against the wall, they make some crazy ass decisions. And that's where we have the drugs to escape. We have the temptations that people want to get into because they're not getting what they want, right? Specifically right now. And they just say, fuck it, I'm going to do what I want to do. And then you have the other people, again, the back of the wall specifically, is without guidance. If they have no structure in their life, they don't have no religion to have no structure for them. They don't have no sense of morals or need to keep up a certain image or a certain standpoint for someone else. Because usually when it's for yourself, you don't really care too much. But when you have other people that rely on you specifically, you don't make no rash decisions.
So you as an example, as some type of idol, someone to look up to, you start reconsidering making bad decisions like that. You don't want to influence your young nephew, your young niece, your younger brother, your sister, whatever, the younger generation of, the immediate loved ones surrounding you. Usually people don't want to be that bad influence. But one, we've already been desensitized to shit like that. People don't care, and people are completely shameless nowadays. So that you might as well throw that out the window, right? In terms of like the shame aspect, right? People don't have no shame, especially like we're in probably the most shameless, area of the world. This specifically, this US,
time frame,
this
yes.
US, Canada part of the entire globe. We're probably the most shameless people walking this earth. And then you throw into that, the ability to cope with stress, the need for instant gratification. There's so many things that play into it. And gambling presents itself as, the number one way to overcome this. This is it. This is your chance.
This is one thing that I want to go into, right? And this is the factor of why it's allowed specifically, right?
Okay.
First and foremost, it's going to be profit. If they can make money off of whatever you're doing as an individual for these corporations, they're going to do so, right? Then you have control of other people, which is both between the corporations and the government specifically, right? And distractions. If they're distracting you from being a number one potential provider to society or a beneficial asset to society, if most people were so, they would be more smarter. And the distraction is to keep you from actually learning knowledge, right? So this is what I want to go into. If it plays on your humanity, they're going to attack it, right? Temptation, dopamine is the biggest thing that people is the hardest to control. So guess what? Financial gain has a dopamine a dopamine affection on your brain, right? Temptations, you have everything being over sexualized now. The biggest thing for people is to control is their urges sexually. So for them to profit on that, it's so easy. If they put it in your face every single day, it's going to over sexualize you. And now you're more susceptible to going into those type of temptations, right? Then you have the drugs, you have the alcohol, right? Of the mind state completely. Now, nobody wants to feel a certain way, and we're going to probably another episode of that specifically, and how everybody's more, they're moving less towards logic and more towards feelings.
Feelings/desires,
right? And then you have the mental health aspect of it, right? It's going to be on a decline. You have more people that are not mentally stable. It's easier to control them, right?
Right.
And that's the long-term aspect of it, right? You're going to have people that are going to be in the rut financially, not being able to come out, right? You're going to have people that have no stability, right? They're not going to be able to have no foundation, and you don't have a foundation, you don't build a family. You can't keep a family at that, right? And you keep everybody individuals. And that's the best part for a corporation to have. More individuals spend money if they're by themselves, right? Once you have a family, you have things to think about, so you won't make these rash decisions on gambling, on spending your money on sexual desires, leisures, and stuff like that, because you have a family unit to take care of. You remove that family unit from the situation. Now you could do whatever you want without no backlash.
Yeah, to make it more relatable and a more real life, commonly, heard scenario and commonly seen scenario. If you really want to put it into perspective, consider this. If you're anybody, I could say like 16 and up, and you have anybody around you, whether they're a friend or somebody you just know, you've known for 5+ years, specifically ask yourself, anybody that I know personally that stopped living a certain low quality lifestyle and started living a more clean lifestyle and a more structured lifestyle with more meaning, and they're more sincere and more serious as an individual about their own well-being. Ask yourself, why did they do that? I can guarantee you 99 out of 100 times it's always because they had a family, they found God, they had an epiphany where something it gave their life more meaning, and it put more weight on their shoulders, and they could not afford to indulge in those prior habits, those prior addictions, those prior vices. They stopped drinking because they wanted to turn into a man for their family. They stopped the drug abuse because, they were down on their ass and they were always strung out and they were always needing something from somebody and begging on the street for money and blah, blah, blah. And now their whole life changed for the better because they have more responsibility, more deeper meaning, more purpose. They are more driven. They are more focused. Now, the reason why I say that is from the powerful perspective, the perspective of power and control and, being able to rule your society. Consider this. Are you, as an individual, more concerned for your health and your safety and your power and your control? If you are walking down the street, right? Where do you feel more threatened, right? If, let's say, you were wearing a nice outfit, it shows you got a couple dollars in your pocket, right? And you're a risk of getting robbed. In which situation will you feel more threatened, right? Situation A, you walk down a street early at night. Doesn't have to be late. It doesn't have to be the bad hours of the night, deep, the dark hours, the graveyard shift of the night. Regular nighttime, after sundown,
twilight.
Right? After sundown, you're walking through the main town road, right? And it's littered with crackheads and alcoholics sitting down, bent over, leaned forward, like completely out of whack, completely out of sort, right? Are you going to be a little uncomfortable? Sure. Are you going to feel a little bit like disgusted, like, this isn't the cleanest place? Sure. Are you going to actually be concerned for your belongings, for your being, for your safety, for your health, for your control? Do you feel powerless in that situation? No, you feel like you still have total control. Like, ain't no drunkie, ain't no dope head gonna just run up on me, and he can't even. He doesn't have the capability. Now, situation B, right? You're walking down the street and there's completely functional, healthy, live, energetic, aware, active individuals that they might not seem like criminals, but had they wanted to commit anything against you, had they wanted to press you physically, had they wanted to pressure you, would they physically be able to carry that out? Are they capable? Ask yourself, in which situation would you feel threatened? Now, relate that to how the government views society. Who are they more worried about when it comes to where do they feel more threatened? A society that's functioning on alcohol and drugs and sex addictions and porn addictions and gambling addictions? Or are they more worried about being exposed by and overthrown, for example, or rioted against from a fully functioning society with highly functioning members from men and women, fully sober, using their full brain capacity, always thinking ahead, always developing themselves, always learning more, doing more, becoming more, earning more, living cleaner lifestyles? Which one, if you were in a position of power, would seem more threatening to you? Of course, it's going to be the capable, highly functioning members of society, right? The fully rejuvenated and energetic and fully focused members of society that always could point out when something's wrong, could take action, could do it and go about it in the right way. Those are the ones that are going to be more threatening. So their objective is to keep you like, that analogy of the crackhead, bent over, incapable, unable to do anything, even if you wanted to, even if you had the worst intentions. If you're strung out on dope and you're a grown-ass adult, you couldn't hurt a fly. If you wanted to, you're going to swing, you're going to miss. And apply that to the mental side. Even if you wanted to think of a way to get yourself out the situation, to when do like actual dope heads like run off on a plug? When do actual alcoholics actually do something major to threaten somebody who has power over them? It's very rare. They can't actually do it. They might think, they might have the worst intentions, they might have the most fogged head, right? Mm-hmm. And the most fogged mind, but they can't carry out that act because they're not in the state where they could. They couldn't even do something, even on their best day, they couldn't do something that would overthrow the power or challenge the power that has control over them. Mm-hmm. So from the government standpoint, that's where their incentive is, right? They keep you weak. They keep you confined. They keep you starving. They keep you thirsty. They keep you hungry for something that's not even real, a dream. They keep you thinking about anything and everything except how to escape the chains that they have made for you.